back. Hope you're having a good day. Today I'm going to work on my Premna. And I bought this guy last fall. Just kind of left it alone. I got this rule that I don't really work a tree too hard when I first get it, unless it's like a rescue tree from Lowe's or something. But I gave it a good cut back in February, which is basically our spring here in Florida. And I was going to let it grow for most of the summer. I planned on working a little bit earlier than I did. But I will say, like, first thing in the spring, the bottom half here really grew out quite a bit. Got some really big leaves, and I noticed that if I didn't keep up with the watering really, really well, they'd get all shriveled up. So I did kind of hit it, just, a little bit of, like hedge pruning, getting some of the really longer shoots with the really big leaves. I noticed the longer the shoot would get, the bigger leaves got. And then about a month ago, I was planning on working it, and I noticed that it was starting to bloom, but most of the bonsai information I found on them didn't really mention that. But I decided to just go ahead and let it flower and take a look and just kind of see how they turned out there. And you guys should be able to see that pretty good. Nothing really all that spectacular. This one's kind of a newer bloom. This one's kind of fading out a little bit. Not really sure if the black part's in there or some kind of a pest that it's getting, or maybe it's developing seeds. And then even up here, here's one that has not really developed at all yet. But it's nothing showy, say like a crepe myrtle or a powder puff tree or, something like that. So it's nothing showy. I'm going to go ahead and work this guy. One thing, it's got these bar branches on here. I've only done the one video on it. It's got these pretty big bar branches down here. I was planning on leaving them kind of both on as sacrifices and eventually taking one of them off. It's because there's not a whole lot of taper. I don't want to take out this whole part here, so I was hoping maybe I could fatten this up. I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to just prune it the way I normally would, in that, taking out the crossing branches and the ones going straight up and straight down, and also, trimming back some of the super long ones. And then I'm going to go ahead and decide whether or not I'm going to choose to prune one of them today. As I look at it from different angles, I'm still kind of a little undecided on the front and which one I should keep. Both of them have some positive and negatives. I did get a suggestion on my last video that this would make a good windswept, and I do agree with that, but I think that would take some wiring. And with these branches being so delicate, I really I have enough trees out there to keep up with wire and everything, and I wanted to keep this a clip and grow. I think the only way to make a really good, believable windswept out of it is to use a lot of wire with it, and I don't really want to do that. You can see here that the leaves are pretty big where they are. And then when I get it all cut back, you'll see that the leaves are really small where it's got new growth. Here must have been a spot where I just cut it. Some of these shoots were getting obnoxiously long, so I do go in and cut it from time to time. so with the idea of a tree looming at you, I do think this would be a good front here. I don't really like the way that one's coming off there. If I was to go with the windswept idea, I think it'd be, you know, keeping this one and then making the tree come this way. Windsweep's a pretty advanced technique, and this is my one and only Premna. I don't really know anything about it, or, you know, I mean, I can read about it and everything, but I don't have any experience keeping one yet. I may try to do a windswept with the ficus or something like that, because then I know how they would react. But I don't think I'm going to try that with this one. And then I think if I take this one off, it'll keep from having so much negative space over there. If I take that one off, then that whole side would just be empty. And I think it makes a little more sense to take this one off. I don't want to leave them on there too much longer. I did try to go back and take a look at some of the highlights of that video, and you can see now that this, when I first got it, this was just about the same size as this. This is starting to get a little bit bigger. This is still just a straight shot here. But I've been looking at some, actually, you know, some pictures of mostly bonsai Premna. I don't really, let's go ahead, take this guy off here. If you go back and watch that first video, there was a branch, really thick one, coming right up off of there. And after I got that branch off there, and I'm going to hit that whole thing with the knob cutters. That's why I wasn't really worried about that making that much of a clean cut. All right, and there we go. I think it's a little bit better. And see, without thinking about the way a tree is supposed to loom on you, that actually looks pretty nice to me, but that's also leaning way back away from the viewer. You're supposed to avoid that. That doesn't look that bad either. I do think it'll be somewhere around in there eventually, but we'll just see how it goes through the winter. I do know when I did look them up, it said, you know, it is a subtropical tree, and here in Florida it's a subtropic, so it should do just fine through the winter. And I'll probably visit again in February once more.